The Arizona sun was a merciless brute, hammering down on the pavement as Linda Mercer stormed up the driveway, a Remington 700 slung over her shoulder like she was auditioning for a post-apocalyptic Western. Her face was the color of a boiled lobster whether from the heat or the fury bubbling under her skin. It was hard to tell. Behind her, the manicured lawns of the Willow Creek estates gleamed like emerald carpets, every blade of grass cut to HOA-mandated perfection. Except for my lawn. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching her approach. The rifle trembled in her grip, as if the sheer weight of her self-righteousness was too much for her to bear. "Really, Linda?" I called out, voice dripping with sarcasm. "A gun? For grass? What's next to SWAT team for unapproved patio furniture?" Her lips twisted into a snarl. "You think this is a joke, Mark? UVY OLAT 7 HOA codes this month alone." I glanced at my property, a modest, slightly wild yard where native plants thrived, a stone pathway I'd built myself winding through it. The horror. Funny, I mused, stepping forward. Last I checked, the HOA handbook didn't include armed intimidation as an enforcement tactic. Or did you scribble that in yourself? Her grip tightened on the rifle. "The board has authority." I cut her off with a laugh. "Authority? Linda, you're not a cop. You're not a judge. You're a retired dental hygienist with a clipboard and a god complex." That's when I pulled out my badge. Her face went slack. "You're Sheriff Mark Reyes," I said, letting the words sink in. 6 years running. And let me guess you had no idea. The rifle dipped. Her mouth opened, then closed like a fish gasping for air. I smirked. "Now, let's talk about your violations. Starting with the illegal well tap you've been using to water those prize-winning roses of yours." Her eyes widened. "How did you?" "Oh, Linda," I sighed. "You've been digging your own grave for months. And I've been happy to hand you the shovel. 2 months earlier, I'd noticed a drop in my well's pressure. A little digging literally revealed a secondary pipe snaking from my property to Linda's garden. Classic HOA hypocrisy. Rules for thee, not for me. So I'd fixed it. Permanently. One midnight plumbing adjustment later, and Linda's irrigation system was flushing recycled sewage water straight into her precious flower beds. The next morning, the neighborhood was treated to the sight of her shrieking as her roses wilted in real time. She called the HOA. I'd called the county health department. Now, standing in my driveway with the sheriff's badge gleaming between us, Linda was realizing just how badly she'd underestimated me. The sirens arrived right on cue. As the officers cuffed Linda, turns out her rifle wasn't technically legal. I handed them a flash drive. "Everything you need on the HOA's creative accounting," I said. "Fines for non-existent violations, kickbacks from contractors, the works." Linda's lawyer sputtered. "This is entrapment." I grinned. "No, this is EVY Denke." By sundown, the neighborhood WhatsApp was on fire. Turns out I wasn't the only one Linda had bullied. The Martinez family had been fined for their kid's treehouse. Old man Peters nearly lost his home over a 2 VY Brandt mailbox. And every single one of them was done playing nice. The HOA board emergency meeting was a circus. Linda, now out on bail, screeched about conspiracies. The other members, a smug lawyer, a yoga instructor with a vendetta against garage sales, and a guy who really hated basketball hoops, sat shell-shocked as I presented my findings to the county. The HOA was under investigation. Linda's unauthorized modifications fine list was leaked to the press. And my lawn? Officially designated a native habitat conservation area. As I sat on my porch that evening, a cold beer in hand, Linda's house sat dark across the street. For sale sign already planted in the yard. I tipped my bottle toward it. "Cheers, Linda." The war was over. But the stories? Those were just getting started. Sophie Martinez stood on my porch the next morning, clutching a manila folder so tightly her knuckles turned white. "They came after my son's college fund," she said, her voice trembling with rage. "A Dulaw 500 fine because his treehouse VY OLAT aesthetic standards. When I refused to pay, they put a lien on my house. I flipped through the folder dozens of similar cases, all buried under bureaucratic jargon. The HOA hadn't just been enforcing rules. They'd been running a shakedown. Deputy Alvarez whistled. This isn't just petty tyranny. It's extortion. I nodded. Time to escalate. That night, Rex's barking woke me. I grabbed my flashlight and found a figure crouched near my Linda's lawyer, a wrench in hand. Going for a midnight plumbing session? I asked, stepping into the moonlight. He froze. This is private property. I smirked. Funny, that's what I said when Linda stole my water. The cops hauled him in for trespassing and attempted vandalism. But the real prize? His phone, which contained text from the HOA president, fixed the well problem. Permanently. The neighborhood meeting was packed. Old Man Peters waved his mailbox paint samples like a revolutionary flag. They called it Neon Eyesore. It's sunset orange. Sophie projected the HOA's finances onto a sheet. See these landscaping fees? They went straight to Linda's cousin's company. By unanimous vote, we filed a class action lawsuit. The local news ate it up. HOA bullies meet their match, and sheriff turned whistleblower. The courtroom was silent as the judge read the verdict. Guilty of fraud, coercion, and misuse of funds. Linda's sentencing 18 months was met with cheers. The HOA disbanded. Its assets returned to homeowners. At the celebration barbecue, Sophie handed me a plaque. World's okayest sheriff, worst lawn enforcer. Even Rex got a steak. Willow Creek Estates was different. My wildflowers now had imitators. The basketball hoop stood unchallenged. And the new neighborhood committee had one rule: don't be a Linda. As I sat on my porch, a kid rode by on a bike while VYing. Sheriff Mark, want to see my non-HOA approved treehouse? I grinned. Hell yeah, ido. The dust had barely settled from the HOA scandal when the first anonymous letter arrived. Slipped under my door in a plain white envelope. The message was typed in bold font. You got lucky with the HOA, but you don't know who you're really dealing with. I turned the paper over, half expecting a fingerprint or some clue, but there was nothing. Rex sniffed at it and growled, his ears flattening. Sophie frowned when I showed her. You think this is from Linda's lawyer? Maybe. I crumpled the note. Or maybe someone higher up. Because here's the thing about corruption, it never really dies. It just slithers into the shadows and waits. The lawyer's client records were supposed to be sealed, but Deputy Alvarez had a friend in the courthouse. The file hit my desk at midnight, and what I found made my stomach twist. Dozens of names, local business owners, a county commissioner, even a state senator. All connected to the HOA's fines, all paying into a slush fund disguised as community fees. Sophie whistled. This isn't just a neighborhood scam. It's a network. And at the center of it all, a shell company called Green Valley Holdings. The address for Green Valley led to an empty office park, but the security guard recognized Linda's lawyer on site. Comes every Thursday, he said. Meets with some suit in a black Lexus. I set up surveillance. The next Thursday, the Lexus arrived right on time and outstepped Richard Voss, the county's top real estate developer. The pieces clicked. The HOA had been his pet project. Overfine homeowners, drive them into debt, then scoop up their properties at auction through Green Valley. It wasn't just about control. It was a land grab. We set the bait. Sophie defaulted on a fake fine, and within days, Green Valley filed a lien. The moment they tried to foreclose, we raided their offices. The files we found? A paper trail straight to Voss. He was in handcuffs by noon. The block party lasted all night. Old Man Peters grilled burgers. Sophie gave a speech, and someone even hung a welcome home banner on Linda's old house now owned by a young family who planted wildflowers. As the fireworks burst overhead, Alvarez handed me a beer. Think it's really over? I looked around at the laughing kids, the untamed lawns. The mailbox Peters had finally painted neon pink. Yeah, I said. This time it is. The Willow Creek Gazette headline said it all. Corruption case sparks statewide. HOA reform. Sheriff Reyes declines Senate run. I framed it right next to Sophie's plaque. Because some fights are worth finishing. And some lawns? Best left wild. 3 months after Voss's arrest, I found myself staring at a subpoena. The state prosecutor wanted me to testify against not just Voss, but the entire network of corrupt officials tied to Green Valley Holdings. "You're the linchpin," the prosecutor said over coffee. "Without you, this whole case unravels." I sipped my black coffee, thinking about the anonymous note still tucked in my desk drawer. "What aren't you telling me?" The prosecutor hesitated. "Voss had protection. High up. We think someone tipped him off before the raid." A cold knot formed in my stomach. The game wasn't over. The security guard from Green Valley's office park called me at 2 a.m., his voice shaking. "Sheriff, you need to see this." The surveillance footage showed Voss meeting with a woman in a sleek pantsuit, Mayor Diane Colton, our so-called reformist mayor. The pieces fell into place. Colton had been the one pulling strings, using Voss and the HOA to clear out undesirable homeowners for her developer friends. Sophie's face went pale when I showed her the footage. "She's up for re-election next month." I smirked. "Not anymore." We leaked the footage to the press at the mayor's campaign rally. The crowd's cheers turned to gasps as the screen cut to Colton shaking hands with Voss, then laughing as he handed her an envelope. Chaos erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Supporters stormed out. Colton's mic feedback screeched as she stammered, This is doctored." From the back of the room, I held up the original surveillance hard drive. Vanna, bet. The fallout was nuclear. Colton resigned by morning. Voss flipped on his remaining contacts to reduce his sentence. And the state legislature fast-tracked the Reyes Act, a law stripping HOAs of fining powers. At the signing ceremony, the governor handed me the pen. "You should run for office." I pocketed it with a grin. I like my current job. Sophie won her city council race by a landslide. The old HOA board members now run a community garden with no rules about weeds. Rex had a third stake. As I sat on my porch now, legally designated a historic sheriff's lookout, a kid rode by on a bike with training wheels. "Sheriff Mark, look, no fines." He popped a wheelie over my unapproved sidewalk chalk art. I raised my coffee cup. "Perfect form, kid." The first warning came on a rainy Tuesday, a demolition notice nailed to Old Man Peter's garage. The city seal looked official, but the zoning code cited hadn't existed since 1998. "They're testing us," Sophie muttered, running her finger over the forged stamp. I pulled out the old Green Valley files. The shell company was dead, but its lawyers had scattered like roaches. One name kept appearing, Carson Valleau, attorneys at law. Rex growled as I dialed Alvarez. We missed a nest. The Carson Valleau office was all glass and arrogance. Junior partner Amanda, Lowe didn't flinch when I slapped the fake demolition order on her desk. "Your client list." "Now." She smiled like a rattlesnake. "Attorney-client PRIVY leg, sheriff." That's when Sophie played her a decade-old photo of Lowe shaking hands with Mayor Colton at a Green Valley fundraiser. The caption, celebrating new development partnerships. Lowe's smile died. "What do you want?" "Everything," I said. The files Lowe coughed up revealed a shadow network, dozens of HOAs across 3 states, all running the same scam. At the top, a real estate investment trust called Blackthorn Holdings. Sophie traced the money to an offshore account. They've stolen overdue $200 million in fake fines. Alvarez whistled. "This is RICO case territory." I stared at the flowchart connecting Blackthorn to politicians, judges, even a U.S. Senator. Rex whined at my side. "Call the FBI?" Alvarez asked. I grabbed my hat. "We're bringing them a gift-wrapped conspiracy." The FBI raid made front-page news. 37 arrests. 62 property liens voided. Senator Hank Ridley resigning in disgrace. At the press conference, the lead agent called it the largest HOA fraud bust in American history. Sophie elbowed me. "You could have taken credit." I nodded to where Peters was teaching neighborhood kids to paint protest signs. "We got what we needed." The Blackthorn Act banned developer-owned HOAs nationwide. Sophie's grassroots group helped pass laws capping fines at $50. My wildflower lawn was declared a municipal habitat preserve. The final battle came unexpectedly, a certified letter from the National Gardening Society. They wanted to feature my revolutionary approach to urban landscaping. I used it as kindling for the barbecue. On the 5th anniversary of Linda's arrest, the neighborhood threw a block party. The kids who'd once feared HOA fines now ran a thriving lemonade stand, no permit required. As the sunset painted the sky, Peters handed me a beer. Think we won? Across the street, a new family moved into Linda's old house. The first thing they did? Tore up the manicured lawn and planted milkweed for monarch butterflies. I clinked his bottle. Yeah, Pete, we won. The neighborhood watched. Roots of rebellion. The monarch butterflies arrived earlier than expected. By May, my former lawn-turned sanctuary was a riot of orange wings and native wildflowers. The local news crew that came to film the phenomenon didn't notice the black SUV parked down the block. But Rex did. His low growl pulled me from pruning milkweed. The tinted windows revealed nothing, but the license plate rang Belsa Rental from Carson, Valo's home state. Sophie's text came through as the SUV drove away. Blackthorn appeal denied, but their lawyers just subpoenaed all our files. The war wasn't over. It had just gone legal. The discovery request would have buried a normal person. 7 years of my tax records. Every email mentioning HOA, even Rex's veterinary bills, allegedly to prove emotional distress damages. Classic intimidation. Our new attorney, Maria Gutierrez, said she'd taken the case pro bono after Blackthorn foreclosed on her aunt's home. They want you to fold. I spread the documents across my dining table, the same table where we'd first plotted against Linda. Tell me where to sign. The deposition notice came with a bombshell attachment. Blackthorn had flipped Linda Mercer. She's their star witness now, Maria groaned. Claims you harassed her into confessing. The security footage from Linda's arrest told a different story. There she was, rifle in hand, screaming about HOA sovereignty. But corporate lawyers have a way of rewriting history. Sophie froze the VY Deo on Linda's face. Look at her eyes. She's terrified. Not of me. Of them. Linda's orange jumpsuit hung loose as she chain-smoked in a VY citation room. They threatened my sister's nursing home, she blurted before I could sit down. So they'd make her choke on her own meds. Her plea deal paperwork confirmed Blackthorn's healthcare subsidiary owned the facility. I slid a burner phone across the table. Then let's give them a taste of their own medicine. The FBI raid on Blackthorn's nursing home DVY Shown made national headlines. Hidden cameras revealed patient neglect, forged records, and buried in the CFO's Emailsa memo titled Liquidating the Reyes Problem. Linda testified in exchange for witness protection. The judge dismissed Blackthorn's lawsuit with prejudice. As the courtroom emptied, Maria handed me a note from Linda. Tell Sophie to plant extra milkweed next year. On the first anniversary of the verdict, we turned the old HOA office into a community center. Sophie hung the original No HOA protest sign above the door. Peters wheeled in a sapling. Cottonwood, he announced. Großfast, breaks concrete. As we shoveled dirt, a kid tugged my sleeve. Sheriff Mark? What if they come back? I tucked a milkweed seed into his palm. Then we plant louder. The cottonwood sapling was barely knee-high when the first bullet struck it. I found the splintered trunk at dawn, the .308 shell casing still warm in the grass. Rex sniffed at the tread, marks the same aggressive tread pattern we'd seen outside the Blackthorn offices. Sophie arrived with coffee and crime scene tape. They're not even hiding anymore. I hung my sheriff's badge on the broken branch. Let them see what they were really shooting at. The attack galvanized the neighborhood. By sundown, every lawn sported a tiny cottonwood sapling in solidarity. But the real surprise came from Dr. Chun, the retired botanist at the 42. She unfolded blueprints across my kitchen table. Blackthorn's weakness is monoculture. Their developments all use the same vulnerable grass hybrids. Her plan was elegant ecological warfare, genetically diverse native species that would outcompete their manicured lawns within 2 seasons. Sophie grinned. So we beat them. By gardening better. Rex barked approval. Blackthorn struck back with midnight herbicide raids. But they didn't account for Marty's engineering skills. The teen rigged motion-activated sprinklers with indelible organic dye. Security footage showed executives fleeing with neon green stains on their DULA 2000 suits. The VY Ral VY Deo, the lawn defenders, trended for weeks. Then came the letter from Blackthorn CEO. We propose a truce. Maria nearly spit out her coffee. They're negotiating with dandelions? The bargaining table was set in the old HOA office. Blackthorn's lawyers winced at the NO HOA sign as CEO Nathaniel Graves laid out his offer. Keep your little habitat. In exchange, you stop the ecological active VY small. Full restitution for all fraudulent fines. Dissolution of all developer-controlled HOAs. A public apology. Graves ben Javier. And if I refuse? Outside the window, 3 busloads of active VYSTS arrived. The National Native Plant Society, the Urban Wildlife Coalition, and Linda Mercer's surprise appearance drew gasps. You'll wish you'd stuck to bullying retirees, I said. The Reyes-Graves Accord became model legislation in 22 states. Dr. Chin's native plant program now trains formerly incarcerated gardeners. The bullet-scarred cottonwood towers over a plaque. First casualty of the lawn wars. At the anniversary celebration, a now-graying Rex dozed under his tree as kids played tag around the trunk. Sophie, now a state senator, handed me a sapling. Blackthorn's last parcel. Thought you'd want to plant the first seed. The dirt stained my knees as I dug. This time, no one came to stop us. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.